Liam, 12, sweeps leaves in a Denver park, sketching patterns on torn ones while grieving his mom. When Harvard's top biologist mocks his tracking model as leaf-sweeping nonsense, Liam works by lamplight, determined to prove him wrong. A boy with nothing but loss and leaves, can he rewrite science before they shut him out? Liam crouched beneath the skeletal branches of a cottonwood tree, a rake in one hand, a crumpled leaf in the other. The wind swept through Denver's Lincoln Park, tossing more debris across the brick path he'd just cleared. He didn't mind. The wind made the leaves dance, and Liam watched them like some kids watched cartoons. "Almost done, baby?" his mom called from the path. Her voice was warm but tired. She stood beside a city trash barrel, her orange vest hanging loose on her shoulders. "Just one more," Liam said. He held up the leaf, traced a faint pattern on its underside with his thumb. "This one's different. The veins curve like migration paths." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Everything looks like a puzzle to you." "It is," Liam whispered. They walked home in silence, past boarded-up storefronts and glowing liquor signs. The apartment above the old pharmacy smelled like mildew and dust, and the walls were so thin Liam could hear the neighbor's television through his bedroom vent. He sat on the floor, sorting his leaf collection into stacks, wide, narrow, curved. The symbol of his persistence was taped above his mattress. A flattened maple leaf, faded brown, labeled Week 3, windbreak behavior. He'd found it curled behind a squirrel nest, veins frayed like threads. His mom had almost thrown it out once, thinking it was trash. Now he called it his first data point. They didn't have much. The heater clicked at random. The fridge hummed louder than the television. Dinner was always quiet. Tonight, canned soup and toast. "You doing okay?" his mom asked, cupping her mug with both hands. "I'm learning," he said. "Watching the squirrels today?" They looped around the same tree 3 times before jumping. She raised her eyebrows. "Think that means something?" "I think everything means something," Liam said. That night, after his mom fell asleep on the couch, Liam returned to the floor. He took out a roll of masking tape, affixed more leaves to the wall, and drew lines between them with a dull pencil. Patterns, arcs, repetitions. He didn't know why he was doing it. He just couldn't stop. The next morning was colder. His mom's hands were red with cold as they picked trash from under picnic benches. Liam wandered further than usual, drawn by a rustling in the brush. He parted the branches and found something strange: clusters of bird feathers scattered in a spiral. "Mom!" he shouted. She ran over, breathing hard. "What is it?" "I think something happened here. See the way the feathers are lined? It's not random." She knelt beside him, frowning. "Maybe a fox. Or a pattern." "Come on, Liam," her voice cracked. Were tucked inside his coat pocket, taped together with sketch marks curling along the veins. He called it Route D, and he didn't know it yet, but it would lead him to Harvard. "Liam!" his mom called. "Lunch break!" He jogged over to the bench, pulling out a foil-wrapped sandwich. They ate in silence until a voice interrupted the calm. "It's costing us millions," the voice said, clipped and urgent. Liam looked up. 2 men in suits were pacing outside the city's environmental research trailer. They weren't dressed for park work, too clean, too pressed. We told him months ago the tracker data wasn't lining up, one of them said. Migration paths in the Rockies look fabricated. Professor Camden's ignoring it, the other replied. He says the model's airtight. Liam leaned forward. Camden. The name bounced in his head. What's that about? He whispered. Probably another funding mess, his mom muttered. Don't worry about it. But he did worry. That night, back in their tiny apartment, he couldn't sleep. He taped new leaves to the wall, then added faint dotted lines between his earlier sketches. If animal trackers weren't lining up, what if his Route D wasn't an accident? The next day, while cleaning the community center garden beds, Liam saw the name again. A flyer fluttered near the compost bin. Public lecture. Wildlife tracking in the age of AI. Speaker, Professor Ronald Camden, Harvard Biocomputational Science. His breath caught. Harvard, Camden, AI. The event was that night. Mom, he asked at dinner, can I go to the university center after we finish? There's a talk. She raised an eyebrow. You want to go to a science lecture? It's about animals, patterns. I think it's connected. She hesitated. You're sure you won't be in the way? I'll stand in the back. She looked at the tape on the wall, the leaves, the notes. She nodded slowly. Go ahead. Liam stood in the back of the lecture hall, behind rows of grad students scribbling into sleek laptops. He clutched his recycled receipt pad, edges torn and stained with graphite. Camden stood at the front, tall, silver-haired, laser pointer in hand. Our AI-enhanced tracking collars allow us to predict migratory changes with 94% accuracy, Camden said. We've tested this across over 2,000 specimens, including mountain lions and elk herds. The system is solid. Liam frowned. Something was off. One slide caught his eye, a map with dots tracing jagged paths through Colorado. He blinked. Those weren't natural. Those matched his Route D. He flipped open his sketch pad, compared it to the slide. The arcs, the loops, the same strange hesitation at 3 intervals. His heart thudded. He waited until the talk ended. People clapped. Some asked questions. Camden nodded, dismissing a concern about data mismatches. Liam stepped forward, hands trembling. Excuse me, he said quietly. Camden glanced down. Yes? I think there is something wrong with your data. The room stilled. Camden tilted his head. That night, he returned to the park with a flashlight and a sandwich bag full of a string. The snow had melted just enough to expose the trail again. He followed the loop, laying a string over the same sequence of paw prints. 1, 2, pause. 1, 2, pause. Curve. He crouched and gently pressed a new leaf over the soil, collecting the print like a reverse fossil. He repeated it 6 more times, labeling each one. Zone A, Zone B, Zone C. Back in the apartment, the heater hissed and clicked. Liam turned his bed into a canvas, spreading a string and leaves across the blanket. He began pinning the leaves to the wall in a spiral, then looped the string through holes he punched at the corners. By midnight, the wall had turned into a web, a movement map built from leaves, thread, and whatever else a poor kid could scavenge. When his mom walked in, she froze. What is this? A 3D tracker, Liam said, eyes shining. Not digital, but real. You can feel the direction in the string. She stepped closer, touched one of the taut lines. You built this? I think it's what they missed. Their model assumes animals are optimizing paths, but what if they're reacting to something? Dodging? Dodging what? I don't know. Sound, light, vibration? He paused. Or maybe they were confused by the trackers themselves. His mom looked at the wall again. And this shows that? Not yet, but I'm close. The next day, Liam borrowed his mom's work gloves and dragged a box of leaf samples to the community library. He slipped into the computer lab, a tight room with flickering monitors and peeling paint. He had 30 minutes on the public terminal, no account, no programs, but he didn't need code. He typed keywords: animal tracking errors, GPS path deviation, Rocky Mountains, Camden migration data. The screen flooded with abstracts and paywalls. He scanned titles. One caught his eye: Behavioral Interference in Artificial Tracking, 2022 study. It claimed there was no significant interference. But in the appendix, he found something strange, a mention of a signal drift near Denver's older power grid. His breath caught. Signal drift, like what he'd seen on Route D. He scribbled it down on the back of a grocery receipt and ran home. That night, with a flashlight in his mouth, he taped a new leaf to the wall, marked Signal Drift Zone. Then he drew a jagged line through the string model. The string dipped awkwardly, off pattern. I knew it, he whispered. They're being thrown off. He turned, heart racing. For the first time, the string didn't just show a path. It showed a flaw, an invisible interference, mapped with leaves, no laptops, no labs, just thread, dirt, and one boy who wouldn't stop asking why. He picked up his dull pencil. It snapped. He didn't flinch. He pulled another from under the mattress, half used and bite-marked. Then he drew the next connection, a single curve linking Zone C to drift. His hand shook. Liam? His mom's voice came from the hall. Found pattern, drift in Zone C, tied to power line proximity. Your slides from last week match? Camden held up a hand. Enough. His voice turned cold. You're not a student, not a researcher. You don't even have equipment. I'm not here to entertain leaf-sweeping theories. A few people laughed. Liam stood frozen. I suggest, Camden continued, you return to your outdoor duties. This is science, not sidewalk art. Liam blinked hard, nodded once, and turned. His mom met him halfway down the aisle, hand on his shoulder. Let's go. No, he whispered, not yet. Outside, the wind cut deep. Liam sat on the curb, the string model on his lap, fingers curled around a broken pencil. He stared at the lines, the leaves, the little taped X's. They laughed, he said. His mom sat beside him. I know, but I won't stop. She looked at him. Then neither will I. Just then a voice called out, Hey, kid. Liam turned. A young man with a buzz cut and glasses jogged up. He held a laptop under his arm, wore a City Tech badge. I'm Nate. I run software for the Denver wildlife team. I saw what happened. Liam stiffened. Yeah? Nate held out his hand. That wasn't fair. I don't know if your model's right, but it's interesting. Liam blinked. You mean it? Yeah, you got leaves in the string, but you're showing motion in real space. That's not nothing. Liam opened the bag again, showed the spirals, the markers, the curve marked signal drift zone. Nate crouched, nodding. That curve, Camden dismissed it in our internal report. We flagged it as an anomaly last quarter. So I was right? Liam asked. You might be. Liam swallowed hard. Then help me prove it. Nate grinned. Deal. Meet me tomorrow after shift. We'll run your zones through the mapping software. As Nate left, Liam turned to his mom. You see that? She nodded. They can't ignore you forever. He picked up the broken pencil and tucked it behind his ear. Let them laugh. He had a string. He had leaves. He had questions no one else was asking, and now he wasn't alone. Liam stepped into the side entrance of the university's bioengineering building, heart pounding like a drum. The air smelled like old chalk and printer ink. Nate had pulled the strings to get him in, just for one meeting, just one shot. They passed under fluorescent lights, down a hallway lined with framed photos of scientists in lab coats. At the end stood Professor Camden, arms crossed, flanked by two researchers on the dry erase board, covered in formulaic curves. Camden didn't smile. Let's make this simple, he said. You're the boy with the string and leaves. Nate tells me you've got something worth hearing. I do, Liam said, voice steady. Camden raised his brows. Then show me. Convince me that your model says something my lab doesn't already know. Liam stepped forward, pulling the folded cardboard from his backpack. He opened it carefully. The leaves were dry but intact, strings still threaded, labels handwritten in smudged pencil. This is Zone C, Liam said, pointing to a looped section with 3 interruptions. Your callers show delays in movement. I tracked these interruptions on the ground, not the satellite. Camden squinted. This is very rustic. It's real, Liam said. That's why it matters. Camden turned to the whiteboard, picked up a marker, and underlined the phrase GPS deviation threshold. Then he faced Liam. I've got a deal for you, he said coldly. You claim my data's wrong. I say it isn't. So here's what we'll do. Liam waited. You get 48 hours, Camden said. Prove your model works. Map an alternative route through Zone C and use it to predict where the elk herd ends up this weekend. If you're right, I'll listen. If not, you walk away. No more interruptions. No more sidewalk science. Liam swallowed hard. What if I'm not finished in 48? Then you were never ready, Camden said. Do we have an agreement? Liam looked at Nate. Nate nodded slightly. I'll show you, Liam said. You'll see what you missed. Camden's lip curled. Good luck, leaf sweeper. Back at the apartment, Liam cleared the floor, pulled his string model apart, and started from scratch. He cut new leaves from old compost, pressed them flat between library books, labeled them with a blunt pen. His mom brought him tea, stayed quiet. She could see it in his eyes. He wasn't scared. He was burning. I've got 48 hours, he muttered. I need to match movement patterns to actual ground changes. Every bump, every bend. He flipped through his notebook, now worn soft at the edges, pages bent like petals. The heater rattled, time ticked. Nate showed up the next morning with topographic maps and a USB drive. I ran your zones through our software. Camden didn't think I would, but I did anyway. Something is definitely off in your drift areas. Liam looked up, eyes wide. What kind of off? Signal reflections? Near power junctions and old metal fencing, it scrambles GPS for short bursts. So, rustle of winter coats, Grad students juggled coffee cups and tablets. Faculty filed into their seats with the usual air of authority. At the front, Professor Camden adjusted his tie, smoothing the collar of his blazer as the projector screen flickered to life. Today's presentation was scheduled to begin at 10 o'clock a.m. It was 9:59. At the back of the room, Liam stood frozen. He clutched the rolled-up migration map under one arm, worn notebook in his pocket, and the taped-together pencil hidden in his sleeve like a secret weapon. "You okay?" Nate whispered beside him. Liam nodded slowly. "I did it. I just don't know if they'll see it." "They will." The host tapped the microphone. "Before we begin today's panel, we've invited a surprising contributor, Liam Morales, park assistant, 12 years old." Some chuckled. Camden didn't look amused. Liam stepped forward, his shoes squeaking on the polished floor. He unrolled his map on the front table, flattening it with both hands. Threaded lines, color zones, and handwritten notes filled the surface. It looked nothing like the sleek slides behind him. "I was asked to build a better prediction model," Liam began. "I didn't use a software. I used what I had: leaves, string, and time." Someone cleared their throat. "This line," Liam said, pointing to the red loop across zones C through E, "shows where the collars glitched, but the animals weren't stopping. They were rerouting around something. Noise interference from the old power grid." A student squinted. "That's not in the published data." "It's not," Liam said, "but it's in the field. Nate confirmed it with your terrain maps." Camden stood, arms crossed. "We already ruled out mechanical interference." Liam's voice didn't waver. "You ruled it out from a desk. I tracked it on foot." Camden laughed once, sharp. "So you think your arts and crafts map outperforms artificial intelligence?" Liam reached into his notebook, pulled out a single leaf, veins inked in black with a string wrapped around the edges. "This leaf shows drift echoes," he said. "Same curve appeared in your heat map last fall, only no one noticed it." A hush spread across the room. Camden stepped closer. "You're claiming that instinct, not code, corrected the migration path?" "Yes," Liam said. "The elk didn't make a mistake. Your model did." Camden opened his mouth, then closed it. Behind him, one of the guest biologists leaned forward. "Can I see that map?" Liam handed it to him. The man studied it, eyes narrowing. "Wait, this is a real overlay. These loops match our newest drone flyover." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Another researcher raised her hand. "What did you say your name was?" "Liam Morales." "Liam," she said. This is remarkable." Camden's jaw tensed. "Coincidence." "Then explain this," Nate said, stepping beside Liam. He pulled up the tracking data on his tablet, syncing it to the big screen. Camden's model predicted the herd would cross Ridge 7, but they didn't. They followed Liam's exact line: 26 animals, 0 deviation. The hall went silent. Liam looked out across the room. Some people still stared in disbelief. Others, with dawning respect, and then, slowly, someone clapped, then another, and another. Within seconds, the room erupted in applause. Camden stood stone still. Liam turned to Nate. "I did it." Nate nodded. "You really did." Liam walked back to the table, picked up his broken pencil, and held it in the light. He had used it through every model, every night, every doubt. His mom waited by the door, her eyes glassy. He ran to her and hugged her tight. They listened, he said into her coat. I knew they would, she whispered, because you didn't stop. From the podium, the guest biologist spoke again. Liam, would you be willing to submit this work formally? I think the scientific community needs to see it. Liam blinked, then he nodded. I'll need more a string. Liam sat on the apartment floor, legs crossed, back pressed against the heater. The hum of it was steady, low, almost soothing. His notebook lay open across his knees, pages filled with arcs, notations, and leaf rubbings. But tonight, he hadn't added anything new. He just stared. His mom stood in the kitchen, folding towels from the laundromat. The TV played quietly in the background, some wildlife documentary, half muted. Something wrong? She asked. Liam didn't answer right away. Then finally, softly, he said, I don't think they know why I did it. She turned, gave him her full attention. What do you mean? They saw the patterns, the data, the map. He looked up, eyes tired. But they didn't see her. His mom stepped closer. You mean Aunt Mari? He nodded. Outside, the wind picked up, brushing bare branches against the window. I remember her voice, Liam said, but just barely. Mostly I remember how she used to kneel in the dirt. She'd whistle, and the birds would come closer, like they trusted her. His mom sat beside him, pulling the towel into rustle of winter coats. Grad students juggled coffee cups and tablets. Faculty filed into their seats with the usual air of authority. At the front, Professor Camden adjusted his tie, smoothing the collar of his blazer as the projector screen flickered to life. Today's presentation was scheduled to begin at 10 o'clock a.m. It was 9:59. At the back of the room, Liam stood frozen. He clutched the rolled-up migration map under one arm, worn notebook in his pocket, and the taped-together pencil hidden in his sleeve like a secret weapon. You okay? Nate whispered beside him. Liam nodded slowly. I did it. I just don't know if they'll see it. They will. The host tapped the microphone. Before we begin today's panel, we've invited a surprising contributor, Liam Morales, park assistant, 12 years old. Some chuckled. Camden didn't look amused. Liam stepped forward, his shoes squeaking on the polished floor. He unrolled his map on the front table, flattening it with both hands. Threaded lines, color zones, and handwritten notes filled the surface. It looked nothing like the sleek slides behind him. I was asked to build a better prediction model, Liam began. I didn't use a software. I used what I had, leaves, string, and time. Someone cleared their throat. This line, Liam said, pointing to the red loop across zones C through E, shows where the collars glitched, but the animals weren't stopping. They were rerouting around something. Noise interference from the old power grid. A student squinted. That's not in the published data. It's not, Liam said, but it's in the field. Nate confirmed it with your terrain maps. Camden stood, arms crossed. We already ruled out mechanical interference. Liam's voice didn't waver. You ruled it out from a desk. I tracked it on foot. Camden laughed once, sharp. So you think your arts and crafts map outperforms artificial intelligence? Liam reached into his notebook, pulled out a single leaf. veins inked in black with a string wrapped around the edges. This leaf shows drift echoes, he said. Same curve appeared in your heat map last fall, only no one noticed it. A hush spread across the room. Camden stepped closer. You're claiming that instinct, not code, corrected the migration path? Yes, Liam said. The elk didn't make a mistake. Your model did. Camden opened his mouth, then closed it. Behind him, one of the guest biologists leaned forward. Can I see that map? Liam handed it to him. The man studied it, eyes narrowing. Wait, this is a real overlay. These loops match our newest drone flyover. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Another researcher raised her hand. What did you say your name was? Liam Morales. Liam, she said. This is remarkable. Camden's jaw tensed. Coincidence. Then explain this, Nate said, stepping beside Liam. He pulled up the tracking data on his tablet, syncing it to the big screen. Camden's model predicted the herd would cross Ridge 7, but they didn't. They followed Liam's exact line. 26 animals, 0 deviation. The hall went silent. Liam looked out across the room. Some people still stared in disbelief. Others, with dawning respect, and then, slowly, someone clapped, then another, and another. Within seconds, the room erupted in applause. Camden stood stone still. Liam turned to Nate. I did it. Nate nodded. You really did. Liam walked back to the table, picked up his broken pencil, and held it in the light. He had used it through every model, every night, every doubt. His mom waited by the door, her eyes glassy. He ran to her and hugged her tight. They listened, he said into her coat. I knew they would, she whispered, because you didn't stop. From the podium, the guest biologist spoke again. Liam, would you be willing to submit this work formally? I think the scientific community needs to see it. Liam blinked, then he nodded. I'll need more a string. Liam sat on the apartment floor, legs crossed, back pressed against the heater. The hum of it was steady, low, almost soothing. His notebook lay open across his knees, pages filled with arcs, notations, and leaf rubbings. But tonight, he hadn't added anything new. He just stared. His mom stood in the kitchen, folding towels from the laundromat. The TV played quietly in the background, some wildlife documentary, half muted. Something wrong? She asked. Liam didn't answer right away. Then finally, softly, he said, I don't think they know why I did it. She turned, gave him her full attention. What do you mean? They saw the patterns, the data, the map. He looked up, eyes tired. But they didn't see her. His mom stepped closer. You mean Aunt Mari? He nodded. Outside, the wind picked up, brushing bare branches against the window. I remember her voice, Liam said, but just barely. Mostly I remember how she used to kneel in the dirt. She'd whistle, and the birds would come closer, like they trusted her. His mom sat beside him, pulling the towel into, the elk don't stop, they just look like they do. Exactly. Liam grabbed his pencil, still the same broken one from 2 nights ago, and circled each drift zone on the map. Then the patterns I saw weren't delays, they were redirections. Nate stared. You could actually trace this without tech? With leaves, Liam said, and a string. They worked through the night. Every time Liam's pencil snapped, he reached for another, duller, smaller, more chewed, each one taped together, nothing wasted. By the second morning, Liam stood back and looked at the board. A full path curved across it, bold, hand-drawn, stitched together with pushpins and thread. "I think I've got it," he whispered. "A new route, one that accounts for the interference." His mom stood in the doorway, still in her work vest. "You did all that? On your own?" "No," Liam said, glancing at Nate. "Not this time." Then he took the map, rolled it tight, and tucked the broken pencil inside. Whatever happened next, he was ready. Liam's hands were shaking. It was 2:11 a.m. The apartment glowed with the dull orange of a desk lamp, one they had found at a second-hand store, the kind with a switch that sparked when it turned. The kitchen timer ticked on the table beside him, marking minutes he didn't have. 48 hours. Down to 16. Leaves were stacked on the floor in clusters. String wound around the chair legs. His broken pencil was now taped to a pen cap. Barely usable, but it worked if he pressed hard enough. He hadn't slept in 30 hours. His mom stepped in, wrapped in a quilt, her hair pinned up loosely. "You've got to rest, baby." "I can't," Liam said. "Camden gave me a deadline, and I think I'm close." She walked over, crouched beside him. "Then you're doing it for the right reason." He didn't look at her. His eyes were fixed on two overlapping maps. One digital printout Nate had given him, the other hand sketched in ballpoint onto scrap paper. "There's a pattern we missed," he muttered. "Camden's data doesn't just stall in Zone C, it doubles back twice. Look," he traced a jagged line. "It looks random on GPS, but if you overlay terrain elevation," he reached for a milk crate under the table, pulled out an old school atlas, and held it open with a tin can. "The trackers aren't malfunctioning. The animals are shifting, just not where the satellites expect." She blinked. "Because of the ridges?" "Because of a sound source," Liam said. "Old maintenance equipment near the power grid. Camden ignored it." "And you found that?" He nodded. "By listening to the field recordings Nate snuck me." She smiled softly. "You're not just following maps, Liam. You're reading their fear." His voice dropped. "I'm doing it for her." Her eyes tightened. "For who?" He tapped the corner of the string model where a photo was taped, a faded picture of a woman standing beside a small creek, trees towering above her. His mother's sister, a park ranger, gone 3 years now, lost in a forest fire sparked by construction. "She loved animals. She said they knew things before we did," Liam whispered. "If I can prove the callers disrupt them, if I can fix it, then maybe they'll stop." His mom didn't answer. She just placed her hand over his and stayed there. Time passed. By 3:40 a.m., Nate arrived with 2 protein bars and a flash drive. "Got the full satellite heat map," he said, setting his laptop down on the crate. "Camden doesn't know I copied it." Liam loaded the data. Eyes darted, fingers moved fast. "Wait," he said suddenly. "What?" Nate leaned in. "This cluster, Zone E, it's showing double pacing. See the movement echo?" That's a feedback loop," Nate whispered. "The caller's pinging too often. It's confusing the AI." "I can correct that," Liam said. "Manually." "You're 12, Nate said, half smiling. "You really think you can recalibrate an error pattern?" "I've done it on leaves." They got to work. Nate rewrote parts of the signal model. Liam transcribed the natural paths with a string. The pencil snapped again, this time clean in two. Liam didn't stop. He sharpened the eraser end with a paring knife and kept going. He looped new zones with thread, cross-checked them with terrain data, and drew curves from memory. At sunrise, the room looked like a lab built from scraps. The final map was taped across the wall, hand-labeled, color-coded with highlighters borrowed from Nate's backpack. "This is it," Liam whispered. "A corrected migration path based on instinct, terrain, and interference." He stood up, swaying slightly. His mom reached out. "You okay?" He nodded. I didn't think I could get here." Nate stared at the wall, wide-eyed. "Camden's going to hate this." "Then let him," Liam said. "He dared me to fix it." He opened his notebook, creased, stained, nearly full, and scribbled 3 words under his final diagram. "Echoes mean fear." Then he closed it, broke the silence, and said, "Let's go show them." The lecture hall buzzed with polite conversation, and the darkened. "They're scared. You exposed a flaw they couldn't see. Now they're rewriting the story." They walked in silence through the hall, past whispers and glances. When they reached the common room, a group of grad students stood by the window. One of them, tall, wearing a Harvard hoodie, smirked as Liam passed. "Nice fairy tale, kid. Heard you used crayons, too." Liam stopped, turned. "You think this was easy?" he said, voice shaking. "You think I wanted to be the janitor's kid waving string at professors?" The student shrugged. "Hey, science needs rules." "So does truth," Liam snapped. "But you only trust the people who sound like you." The student said nothing. Liam turned and walked out, gripping his notebook tight. That night, back in the apartment, he stared at the wall of leaves, some faded, some torn. He touched the one marked "Echoes mean fear," and whispered, "They can't erase me." His mom came in quietly, holding a piece of mail. "You got this," she said softly, handing it to him. It was from the Wildlife Preservation Bureau. He opened it with shaking hands. Inside, a formal letter, stamped and signed. "We request your model for inclusion in our upcoming field analysis project. Your submission has been reviewed independently and deemed groundbreaking." Liam stared at the words. "They can't erase you," his mom repeated. "You're already written in." He smiled, then he pulled the broken pencil from behind his ear, opened the back of the notebook, and added a new word beneath all the others, unwritten until now. The community auditorium was packed. Rows of folding chairs stretched from the stage to the back wall, filled with scientists, students, and reporters from the local paper. Liam sat in the front row, his notebook resting on his lap, the broken pencil tucked into the spine like a bookmark. His mom was beside him, hands clasped, not saying much, but he could feel her strength. Nate stood off to the side, pacing near a laptop connected to the projector. The Wildlife Preservation Bureau had invited them both to present Liam's tracking model. But Camden was there too, seated in the second row, arms folded, jaw tight. Liam could feel the weight of the room pressing down. The host stepped up to the mic. "We'd now like to welcome Nathan Rivers, representing the Denver Wildlife Tech Division." Nate walked up, cleared his throat, and spoke. "A few weeks ago," he began, "a boy brought me a map made out of string and leaves. I almost laughed, but I didn't. I looked closer, and what I found wasn't just clever, it was correct. The screen behind him lit up, showing an animated map. Colored lines moved across terrain contours, following paths, red for Camden's AI model, blue for Liam's. As you can see, Nate said, the AI predicted a northeast route, but Liam's model, built from field observations and instinctive logic, anticipated a southern shift. The red line faded, the blue line kept going. We now have drone confirmation 26 elk followed Liam's path exactly. Gasps filled the room. Camden shifted in his seat. Nate clicked again. Next slide. A scanned image appeared. Liam's notebook, open to the page labeled Zone Drift Echoes. On it, faint graphite loops, a leaf taped beside a terrain sketch. This is his work, Nate said. Every line, every insight, dated, tracked, verified. Someone raised a hand. Who confirmed this? Nate didn't hesitate. 3 external analysts from the Bureau, independent verification, all matched. A beat of silence. Then slowly, Liam stood. He walked to the front, voice shaking slightly. I was told I didn't belong here, that what I built wasn't real science. He opened his notebook to a page near the middle. It was stained, corner folded, a thumbprint smudged near the margin. This is Zone C, he said, holding it up. I found it after watching an elk reroute around an electric fence. No one believed it mattered, but every movement means something. He looked at Camden. I wasn't trying to prove anyone wrong. I was trying to listen better. Camden stood abruptly. This is emotional theater. The audience turned. It's well constructed, he said, voice sharp. But science isn't built on feelings. It's built on standards. Nate stepped forward. And the standards verified it, he said. We cross-referenced Liam's field entries against satellite timestamps. He wasn't guessing. He was tracking in real time. Another hand raised. A woman near the back spoke. So what happens now? The host returned to the mic. We've invited the Bureau's director to close this segment. An older woman with a gray bun and hiking boots stepped onto the stage. She nodded at Liam, then turned to the audience. This model will be integrated into our regional tracking protocol, effective immediately. Murmurs turned into stunned applause. Liam stood frozen. The director turned to him. Mr. Morales, your work doesn't just meet the standard. It redefines it. Liam's mom reached for his hand, tears shining in her eyes. They can't deny it now, she whispered. He looked down at his notebook, then pulled out the pencil, split, taped, worn down to the nub. He held it in the air for a moment, then tucked it back into the spine like a flag. Because this wasn't the end, it was the proof. Snow fell soft over the Harvard courtyard, blurring the edges of the old brick buildings. Liam stood in a borrowed coat, notebook clutched under one arm, staring up at the ivy-covered windows like they were watching him back. He wasn't supposed to be here, not yet. Not until the letter came. Not until the director herself called and said, "You're wanted in Cambridge." Nate walked beside him, carrying a travel bag and a folded map. "You nervous?" he asked. Liam didn't answer. They entered through the science wing's side door, where the hallway smelled like old paper and soldered wires. A plaque read Ronald Camden, department chair, but they passed it. They turned left stopped at a frosted glass office. The door read Dr. Monroe, Field Systems Advisor. Inside, a woman sat at a wide desk surrounded by open field journals and boxes of topographic maps. She looked up as they entered, eyes sharp but kind. "Liam Morales," she said, standing. "It's good to finally meet you." He nodded. "Thank you for inviting me." She motioned for him to sit. "I read your entire notebook twice." Liam set it gently on the desk along with the worn pencil. "I used this for all of it," he said. She picked it up carefully, examined the taped barrel, the dulled graphite. "This?" She smiled. "This is what changed our migration models." He blushed. Dr. Monroe leaned forward. "Camden's office was flooded with letters after your talk. Faculty, alumni, reporters, students, some angry, some amazed, but all of them talking about you." "I thought I wasn't allowed back," Liam said softly. "You weren't," she replied, "until now." A pause, then she reached into her drawer, pulled out a sealed envelope, and slid it across the desk. He opened it slowly. Inside, a letter, the crest at the top, the words, "Full academic endorsement, early admission pending completion of independent fellowship." His hands trembled. "You believe in me?" he whispered. "I believe in what you see," Dr. Monroe said, "and we'd be foolish not to build this with you." Liam looked down at the broken pencil in his lap. "What about Camden?" he asked. "He's stepping down." His eyes widened. "Your work didn't just challenge him," she continued. "It exposed a weakness in how we evaluate intelligence. We assumed talent wore a lab coat." She pushed a field journal across the desk. "We want you to co-author a paper, Field Authenticated Instincts in Youth Ecological Modeling." "I don't even know how to write a paper," he admitted. "We'll teach you," she said. "But the thinking, that's yours." He looked to Nate, who smiled wide. "Told you they couldn't erase you." A knock came at the door. Dr. Monroe stood. "Excuse me." She stepped into the hallway and returned moments later with a bundle wrapped in brown paper. "For you," she said, handing it to Liam. He unwrapped it carefully. Inside, a handmade leather notebook, embossed on the cover in gold foil. LM. Field Log Number 2. He touched the spine gently. "It's beautiful. We'll keep your first one archived," she said. "But this one's for what comes next." His eyes stung. They left the office just after sunset. The courtyard lights glowed through the snow, and Liam walked slowly, clutching the new journal to his chest. "You realize what this means, right?" Nate said. "You're in. For real." "I still feel like I'm dreaming," Liam said. "You're not." They reached the gate. Liam looked back once, then down at the broken pencil in his coat pocket. He pulled it out, held it in the light, then tucked it gently between the pages of the new journal. Not forgotten, just carried forward. Snow had melted into puddles along the steps of Sanders Theater. The bell tower rang twice, echoing through Harvard Yard. Inside, velvet seats filled with faculty, students, and visitors, each one holding a printed program titled Annual Honors in Scientific Contribution. Liam stood backstage, feet too small for the polished shoes he'd borrowed. His blazer felt stiff at the shoulders. His new leather-bound journal was tucked inside, pages still blank. But in his front pocket, just barely peeking out, the broken pencil. His mom, sat in the front row, wearing the same gray coat she'd worn to every shift. Her hair was pinned back, hands folded neatly in her lap. Nate was beside her, tapping his knee, bouncing like he was the one being honored. A staff member whispered from the curtain, "You're next." Liam stepped forward. A man at the podium adjusted his glasses. "Our next honoree is the youngest in our institution's history, a field observer, researcher, and modeler whose instinct and perseverance redefined our regional wildlife protocols." The crowd stilled. He didn't come from a lab or a lineage. He came from Denver's Lincoln Park, armed with leaves, string, and a broken pencil. Polite laughter, then silence again. "Ladies and gentlemen, Liam Morales." The applause started slow, then rolled into thunder. Liam walked out, chest tight, heart racing. The spotlight hit his face, and for a second he froze. Then he saw her, his mom, beaming, tears in her eyes, nodding once, like, "Go on, baby." He stepped to the mic. "I didn't think I'd ever stand here," he began. "I didn't think people like me ever did." The room was still. I didn't have the tools most students get. I had used notebooks, leaves, string, a pencil my mom found on a bus bench. He held it up, taped, bitten, worn down. "This pencil helped me see what no one else could, because sometimes being close to the ground means you see what everyone else steps over." He paused. "I didn't do this alone. Nate, thank you for seeing more than the mess. And Mom," he looked down, "I did this for us." She covered her mouth. The director stepped forward and handed him the plaque. Young Scholar Fellowship, full academic admission, fall term enrollment, Harvard University. The room rose to its feet. He turned, walked slowly off stage, hands still trembling. Back in the dressing room, he sat on the bench, staring at the plaque. Nate came in, grinning wide. "You killed it, kid." "I almost threw up," Liam admitted. "But you didn't." Liam opened his journal, flipped to the first page, and carefully taped the broken pencil inside the cover. "That's where it stays," he said. Nate sat beside him. "You know, next year you'll be presenting as a student. You ready?" Liam looked at the empty page, then out the window where the snow had turned to spring light. "I will be." Later that night, in their apartment back in Denver, his mom lit a small candle and pulled out a faded photo of Mari, the one beside the creek. She placed it on the windowsill. "We saved her seat," she whispered. Liam came out in pajama pants and socks, plaque in hand. "Can I put this next to her?" His mom nodded. He placed it gently beside the photo. "She was the first to listen," he said. "Now they're listening too." They sat in silence, shoulder to shoulder, a candle flickering between them. In the corner, taped to the wall, still untouched, the very first leaf. Week 3, windbreak behavior. It hadn't faded. It had held on, just like him. Liam stood at the edge of Lincoln Park, staring out at the newly planted grass where patchy dirt had once spread. Bright green signs dotted the trail. Wildlife corridor. Please respect animal paths. A group of younger kids walked by on a school trip, led by a teacher in a blue windbreaker. "That's where the elk used to get stuck," she said, pointing to a spot Liam knew by heart. "But a local student built a model that helped us redesign the whole path system." The kids looked up at Liam, then back to the trail. He smiled quietly. Behind him, city workers installed the final panel of a solar-powered tracker, designed using Liam's original route blueprint. No collars now, just ground sensors, low impact, fully aligned with animal behavior. "Hey, Morales!" a familiar voice called out. Liam turned. It was Javi, one of the field staff, holding a clipboard. "We just got word. 2 mountain lions passed through the corridor last night. No signal loss, no reroute." Liam exhaled. "It's working." "It's really working," Javi said. "They're talking about applying this to 4 other parks. Even Boulder's interested." Liam nodded, watching 2 squirrels dart across the trail. Clean, unblocked, wild. Back at the community center, volunteers gathered around long tables, organizing kits for youth field workshops. Inside each bag, a recycled notebook, 3 blank leaf charts, 1 length of thread, and a sharpened pencil. The symbol lived on. Liam helped a boy open his string kit. "You thread it through the holes," he explained. "Then trace the trail on the ground. It'll teach you how movement feels, not just looks." The boy looked up. "You made all this?" Liam shrugged. "I just started it." He turned and walked into the library wing, where a large poster now hung near the entrance. A photo of his original leaf model. The caption read, "Community-based mapping, born from the ground." Nate met him inside, flipping through a binder. "The Ridgefield team's flying out next week," Nate said. "They want you to lead the impact study in person." "I'm ready," Nate smiled. "I still can't believe it started with a broken pencil and a roll of a string." Liam pulled the leather journal from his backpack. Inside, the pencil rested gently in its taped spine. Pages filled now, ideas, data, poems even. "They laughed at me," Liam said softly. "Now they're copying me." Nate leaned on the table. "That's how you know it mattered." But it wasn't just parks. Satellite companies requested modified migration overlays. Wildlife documentaries requested interviews. State commissions rewrote planning. Protocols, based not on drone data, but field-informed pathways. And all of it traced back to that first arc drawn on a leaf. Later that evening, Liam walked home through the back alley shortcut he and his mom used when she worked late. She stood outside their apartment watering a small tree they'd planted in the corner lot where dumpsters used to overflow. "You're late," she said, smiling. "Lots of questions today," Liam replied. "Kids want to know if birds follow trails too." She laughed. "You got answers for them?" "Not yet," he said, "but I'll listen." She stepped back, admired the small but growing tree. "Hard to believe," she said, "from trash to trail." Liam looked at the recycled notebook in his hand. "No," he whispered, "it always started here." She nodded, then turned toward the door. As he followed her up the steps, he noticed the original leaf. Week 3, windbreak behavior, still taped inside the entryway. Faded, but unbroken. Before bed, he opened his journal, flipped to the next blank page. At the top he wrote, "New question. What patterns do birds leave behind?" Then, with the broken pencil in hand, he drew the first curved line. The sun dipped low over Denver, casting a golden haze across the rooftops. Liam sat on the edge of the community center roof, legs dangling over the side, the city humming below. The air was quiet here, high enough to escape the noise, low enough to still hear life. His leather journal rested on his lap, open to a blank page. The broken pencil lay across the crease, still wrapped in the same old tape. He hadn't sharpened it again. It didn't need to be sharpened anymore. Behind him, the rooftop door creaked open. "Figured I'd find you up here," Nate said, holding 2 paper cups. "Chamomile. Don't ask why. I panicked." Liam smiled, took the cup. "Thanks." They sat in silence for a while. Below, a group of kids ran through the park trail, laughing. Their backpacks bounced, and one of them pointed at the wildlife signs like they meant something now. "They're following your path," Nate said. "They're following nature's path," Liam replied. Nate nodded. "You know, when this started, you were just a kid with thread and a notebook. Now you've got interns." "I still feel like that kid," Liam said. "Sometimes I wonder if all this was just one lucky leaf." Nate looked over. "It wasn't luck. You listened when no one else did. You worked when no one asked you to. And you kept showing up. Tired, cold, ignored, but you showed up." Liam took a deep breath. "I'm scared." "Of what?" "That I won't live up to it. That I already gave the world my best idea." Nate paused. Then he pulled something from his coat pocket. A small envelope. Liam opened it slowly. Inside was a photo. Grainy. A little faded. A younger Mari crouched beside a trail marker with chalk in her hands, sketching what looked like a strange looping line. "I found that in an old ranger archive," Nate said. "It's dated 6 months before she died." Liam traced the shape. "It's one of mine, Zone B. She saw it first." "She felt it first," Nate corrected. "You just finished what she started." Liam closed his eyes. Maybe this is just the start. The rooftop door opened again. His mom stepped through, holding a small, cloth-wrapped package. "You forgot this," she said, smiling. He unwrapped it carefully. Inside was the original notebook, creased, frayed, leaf still taped on page 1. "You sure you want me to have this?" he asked. She knelt beside him. "It was always yours. You just needed time to see it." Liam gently placed the broken pencil inside the notebook's spine and closed it. Then he pulled his leather journal forward and wrote, "New project, observation tower installation, designed by kids, mapped by instinct." Nate stood. "You've shown us the way, Liam." Liam looked out over the city. He could see power lines, parks, trails, concrete and canopy. Somewhere out there, a fox would find a path it wasn't forced to take. Somewhere, a kid might draw a line no one understood yet. He rose to his feet, lifted the notebook, and held it against his chest. "This isn't about science," he said. "It's about protection. It's about paying attention. And it's about never letting systems decide who gets to matter." His mom reached out, brushed the back of his head. "Then you'd better keep writing." Liam nodded, eyes glowing. "Because talent," he whispered, "isn't where you sweep. It's where you dare to protect." The wind picked up gently, and for the first time in months, Liam let the broken pencil fall softly from his hand. Not as a goodbye, but as the start of a new trail.